Hi, I'm Roxana Dewey, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to set course norms. So you'll see here one of my English 101 classes. At the very top of their homepage, I have three norms set for the class. And essentially, I didn't set them, they set them. So, what I'm going to show you today is how to walk through that process of setting your course norms with your students if that's something that works for you. I like to set norms because it just offers a guideline for students as they're working together through the course of the semester. And it's helpful sometimes in certain situations to say, hey, wait a second, these are the norms that you decided on at the beginning of the semester as we're working through. What you're doing over there doesn't really align with the norms that you've set. So they're a nice reminder of the things that we value in a learning environment. So that's why I always like to start to set them with students at the beginning of the semester. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my modules, and you could start this on day one if that's something that's of interest to you. Typically on day one, I like to do some icebreaker activities, so on and so forth, and have the students become a little bit more comfortable with the class and the classroom environment before I ask them to set their norms. So I start with this, and I use this as a model of what norms are. And I preface it by saying that norms can be procedural or behavioral. And I give several examples. A procedural norm that they might want to uh, adopt would be something along the lines of, in this class, everyone sits in the same seat when they enter. A behavioral norm, on the other hand, would be something along the lines of, in this class, when someone is talking, we all strive to pay attention and listen, or we're all respectful of what they're saying. So those are examples. And so I ask the students then to think about the norm that matters to them the most in a learning environment. And from there, I have them enter into this document here. And it's a live document. It's a Google Doc, and I have the settings set to sharing with everyone. Everyone has share permission to access and also edit the document. So immediately when they click on that link, they're all going to be part of the document, and they'll all come in as like these anonymous animals, and there'll be cursors everywhere. And at first it's a little bit too much, especially for students that don't like a lot of movement or, blinking things on the screen. So I do preface that, that's going to happen. But once we get into the document, I'm like, it's alive. And they kind of get a joke, a kick out of that. So, they initially start on the left-hand side of the page, and they just pick, I have all of the rows blank, and they pick a row that's empty, a vacant row, and they type in the norm that they thought of previously that matters to them the most. So they type it in. I give them a few minutes to do that, come up with what's important. And then I tell them that they're going to take off their writing hat, and they're going to then put on their voting hat. And then we move over to the right-hand side where it says vote here. And I tell them to read through all the norms and put an X next to the three that are most important to them as an individual learner. And then I give them a couple minutes for the voting process to happen. And eventually, the norms that are most important to the group kind of start to stand out because they have the most votes. So once the voting process is done, then the next step is for me to go through and I highlight the ones that have the most votes. And then I go through an adoption process with them. So I say, okay, the one that has the most votes first is this one. So in this class, it was to have simple decency toward others. And I remind them that as we go through this adoption process, that I'm simply the facilitator. These norms are for their classroom and they are unique and distinct to their group of learners and colleagues. So they're not going to be the same in any other class. And whatever they decide upon, that is what goes. And I do not influence their decision. I'm just facilitating the process. So the first norm here we have that has the most votes is to have simple decency toward others. So I would say, oh, okay, here's your first one, and I'll read it out loud. And then I will say, thumbs up if you want to keep it as is. A middle thumb if you're thinking you want to keep it, but you might want to modify it. And then thumbs down if you want to dump it. And so I do that for each one. Now, typically, they're going to get a lot of thumbs up on each one. And if everyone has a thumbs up, then okay, cool. We adopt it and we all vote and we say, yep, that's our norm. And so then we move on to the next one. Sometimes, though, during this process, things will pop up where there might be a lot of students with their thumbs up, but there might be one student that says, And so I'll say, oh, I noticed that someone wants to modify or change it, and then I'll ask, okay, what's going on? What would you modify or change it to? And so then they respond. And they might add a word or they might add another sentence in, or they might say, you know what, that one looks very similar to this one. What if we combine them? And so we go through that process and I say, okay, so-and-so wants to change it to this. What are your thoughts? And then we open up the discussion and then keep going until they arrive at a consensus about the norm that they want to stick with. And then we do the voting again. Thumbs up, modify, or discard. And I go through that with each one. The goal for the class and the group is to adopt at least 3 to 5 that are most important to them. So once they have them adopted, then I post them at the top of their Canvas homepage, just as a reminder that these are the guidelines that you set for your learning community. And these are the things that will guide us as we are working together through the course of the semester. So hopefully that offers you a little bit of insight into how I do my norm setting activity. And maybe you'll find it useful for your group of students and your teaching practice. And if not, hey, thanks for watching.